Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and stories shaping our world. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're looking at the delicate balance between environmental caution and the need for critical raw materials in Europe. The European Union is facing a dilemma as it tries to reduce its reliance on China for essential resources like lithium and rare earth elements, which are crucial for the production of solar panels, batteries, and other green technologies. On one hand, the EU has a strong regulatory framework in place to protect the environment, with directives like the Water Framework Directive and the Habitats Directive. However, the increasing demand for these critical raw materials is leading to a re-evaluation of these regulations. The Critical Raw Materials Act, adopted in 2024, aims to facilitate the opening of mines and processing facilities in Europe, while also accelerating permitting procedures. This has led to concerns among local communities and environmental groups who are protesting against the potential environmental consequences of large-scale mining projects. In Sweden, for example, the expansion of a mine in Kiruna is threatening the reindeer breeding activities of the indigenous Sami population. Similarly, in Portugal, lithium mines are being proposed in green, hilly areas, sparking fears about the impact on farming activities. As the EU navigates this complex issue, it's clear that there are no easy answers. While some officials argue that Europe cannot afford to halt strategic mining projects due to local opposition, others emphasize the need to prioritize environmental protection and consider alternative solutions, such as relying more on recycled materials and substitutions. The European Court of Auditors has warned that the EU is still not on track to meet its objectives in terms of extracting and processing raw materials, highlighting the need for further action. As the debate continues, one thing is certain: the EU's approach to critical raw materials will have significant implications for the environment, local communities, and the future of green technologies. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're taking a closer look at the complex and ever-changing world of international relations, specifically the recent developments between the United States and Colombia. Colombian President Gustavo Petro is set to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House, marking their first in-person encounter. This meeting comes after a series of public disagreements and tensions between the two leaders. President Trump has been vocal about his concerns regarding Colombia's handling of the narcotics trade, even going as far as to suggest military action against the country. On the other hand, President Petro has criticized the U.S. for its approach to the issue, describing American strikes on alleged drug boats as war crimes. The situation was further complicated by the U.S. operation that led to the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, which Petro described as a kidnapping. Despite these challenges, both leaders have expressed optimism about their upcoming meeting. In a phone call last month, they reportedly had a positive conversation, which led to Petro's invitation to Washington. Trump has noted that Petro's tone seems to have changed since the raid on Maduro, implying a potential shift in Colombia's stance. The stakes are high for this meeting, as it could have significant implications for regional security and the future of U.S.-Colombia relations. Colombia is the world's top producer of coca and hosts several U.S.-designated terrorist organizations. A successful meeting could lead to increased cooperation on counter-narcotics efforts and potentially improve relations between the two nations. However, given the unpredictable nature of both leaders, it's difficult to predict how the meeting will unfold. Will they be able to put aside their differences and find common ground, or will the conversation turn tense? One thing is certain: the world will be watching closely as these two leaders come together to discuss the future of their country's relationship. As we wait to see how this meeting plays out, it's clear that the situation is complex and multifaceted. We'll continue to follow developments and bring you updates as more information becomes available. Good evening and welcome back to the Concrete Block. As we approach the end of today's show, we're going to delve into a critical geopolitical situation that has been unfolding in the Middle East. The United States and Iran have been engaged in a tense standoff, with both nations trading warnings and threats. Recently, it was announced that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi will meet in Istanbul to try to revive diplomacy over the long-running dispute about Iran's nuclear program and dispel fears of a new regional war. This development comes after a violent crackdown against anti-government demonstrations in Iran last month, which has led to increased tensions between Tehran and Washington. According to sources, the priority of the talks in Istanbul is to avoid any conflict and de-escalate tensions. Regional powers, including Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates, have also been invited to the foreign minister-level talks. The UAE, a highly influential Gulf Arab oil producer and close U.S. ally, has stated that the region cannot afford another conflict. Iran's leadership is increasingly worried that a U.S. strike could break its grip on power by driving an already enraged public back onto the streets. In high-level meetings, officials have told Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei that public anger over last month's crackdown has reached a point where fear is no longer a deterrent. It's essential to note that Iran has long said that certain demands made by the U.S., including zero enrichment of uranium and limits on Tehran's ballistic missile program, are unacceptable infringements of its sovereignty. However, Iranian officials have expressed willingness to show flexibility on uranium enrichment, including handing over 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. As we continue to monitor this situation, it's crucial to remember that the complexities of international diplomacy often require careful consideration and nuanced understanding. We will keep a close eye on developments in the Middle East and provide updates as more information becomes available. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.